Hello everyone, MFPallytime here, and welcome back to Dark Souls. Something we haven't said in a fairly long amount of time, but something that we have said a lot on this channel. If I had to guess, I probably have around 900 hours in Dark Souls. That is about 750 hours on PC, and then a little bit of time on console when I first picked up the game originally. In that time, I have done countless runs. I have cosplayed a bunch of different in-game characters. We have used a bunch of different weapons, tried a bunch of different play styles, done various modded challenges, speed ran the game. I did massive air quotes on my end. I know you can't see me. And introduced a lot of my friends to the game after the game was introduced to me by one of my very good friends. I feel like I have played so much Dark Souls in my time, and I thought it'd be fun to do a run where I just kind of reminisce on that for a little bit, you know? I thought it'd be fun to do a run where I go up to each boss and just kind of talk about the boss a little bit. What stands out to me, what I like about him, what I don't like about him, as someone who has played the game so many times. I have a pretty fun build in mind for this as well. It's a classic one that I'm hoping to bring back, and no, it isn't Bam Bam with the Bam Bam stick. That's been done so many times, I can't do it again. I like to think that everyone remembers their first time encountering the first boss of Dark Souls, where you open the door for the first time, wander in, expecting to find maybe something to swing at an enemy, and instead met with the gigantic belly of a stray demon that falls down in front of you. I think that is such a cool introduction, and something I still reminisce on. I think it's so cool that this is your first introduction to a big bad in Dark Souls. I will say, my favorite memory, I guess we should go get my weapon first, and then I can tell you my favorite memory. My favorite memory of this boss is when I was telling my dad about Dark Souls. And I, mentioned that I was doing some videos for it and that I was having a lot of fun. And it's a really challenging game, and only good gamers can beat Dark Souls. This is back in those days. He wanted to sit down and try it. And I just give him the controller and I walk away to go work on some videos. And I come back maybe like 45 minutes later. And he was like, I got to this boss, and how the fuck are you supposed to do this? Now, knowing my daddy probably didn't swear, but believe me, the intent was there. He was so fixated on the boss that he didn't see the side door, and he was whacking at him with the level 1 broken dagger. I know so many people have done the same thing. I was like, Dad, welcome to Dark Souls. I also think it's so cool that if you pick the black fire bombs to go up against this boss, you can kill him early on, and he drops his weapon, so you can get a really strong weapon based off of one of your choices that you made in character creation. I think that is a really nice bonus. Now, unfortunately, the Asylum Demon is cursed with the same moveset of all of the stray demons, so he's never going to be that difficult, but I do think he sets the tone really well for Dark Souls. Okay, I'm going to go 16 strength. Get some endurance in there as well. What does this Zweihander need for strength? I'm actually going to go check that really fast. Where do they leave that thing at? Is it over here? Nice. Zweihander needs 24 strength. If I two-hand it, I think we're a little short. Yeah. I actually remember farming so much in this area on my initial playthroughs, really trying to get as many souls as humanly possible here. I remember being stuck on the Taurus Demon for quite a long time, and I looked up a few guides and a few strategies on how to defeat him easily. And on the wiki, they were saying that pyromancers were great at killing him because you could just lob spells at him. You could lob those fireballs, and I think he has low fire resist, but I'm actually not sure because you encounter him in molten areas later. But that's what I did. I abandoned my character I was farming on, went and got a pyromancer and beat the crap out of him. And that was like my first huge step forward in this game. One thing I do really like about this boss encounter is that if you do have the master key, or you're able to find the actual key that opens the door, they give you this pine resin that's not only good versus this boss, but extremely good against the gargoyles and Havel himself here. So it's like a really good item to find. I also really like that naturally you're going to want to walk forward in this area. Everything is drawing your eyes forward in this area. But the game is teaching you that there can be threats in any direction, and you have to look for them. It's also teaching you and reinforcing that plunging attacks can be really strong. We're going to use a pine resin as well as the plunging attack strat with a two-hand on our axe, and I think this will be one of the quickest fights we've ever done. I'm not even going to heal. We shouldn't even need it. Hey, buddy. Hello. I also like that if you take too much time up here, he basically just jumps up and kills you. I think that's pretty fucking hilarious. The safest spot to stand on this boss is right in the middle of his hitbox. And, woo! If you have a shield that blocks 100% physical damage, you can kind of just keep that up. And those big scary hits that we were rolling around can really be simplified. If you're doing a pacifist run, you can actually kill this boss by positioning over here. And there's a series of jumps he can do, but one of his leaps backwards actually has him jumping off the side. I also like that if you take the time to explore and talk to Sunbro and see what he's all about, you then get him as a co-op that you can summon in during the next fight. Once again, incentivizing you to really explore the areas to their fullest and then being rewarded. I mean, the Bell of Awakening is no small feat, and the fact that they give you not one but 2 NPCs to help you kill it if you explore is pretty cool. Okay, back to this Vaihander topic. I have it equipped in 2 hands right now. By doing that, it lowers the strength requirement. So I'm leveling up, just trying to increase my strength by 1 at a time, and then checking to make sure I still can't use it. And I'm just gonna keep doing this until I can. I could just simply do the math, but oh, my problem is my dexterity. Sorry, I thought I had 10 already. See, everybody makes mistakes, dude. It's okay. Hey, if you ever want easy soul farming at the beginning of the game, I just ran by a dragon up here and kicked this ladder down. You kind of have to go down this path anyway. You can just walk up here, make the dragon really mad at you, and then get 555 souls. There we go. Now I can use this thing to its full effectiveness. It's crazy to me that they give you one of the best weapons in the game literally 2 seconds away from the spawn. Such a nice pickup. I do remember, this isn't a boss, but I do remember shooting this guy's tail off to get his sword for what felt like a half an hour at a time. I also remember never taking this path ever until I learned this trick, where you just stand here long enough for him to get tired. And then when he comes down, you run forward right past him. And it's like nothing ever happened. Not a boss, but a good life tip, you know? So if I was in human form, I'd be able to summon in Sunbro right here to help me out with the gargoyles. I love the delivery of this one. I love the way the cutscene looks. I love the surprise in the middle, which if you're watching this, you shouldn't care about spoilers to cool stuff that happens in Dark Souls. I just love the setup. Like, how cool is that, dude? Dark Souls also, again, it's kind of gone down over the years, but gets a bad rap for being a game that's way too difficult. However, this is one of the pillars for story progression, and you can completely defeat this fight without doing a single swing of your own, which we've proven time and time again. Sunbro can annihilate this fight, and you can also summon in the other dude as well. However, if you choose to go toe-to-toe with your adversaries, not only do we have access to the Zweihander, we also have access to the Golden Pine Resin. So, I think 4 swings will do it. And that's a oh, excuse me, 5 swings. And that's a gargoyle down. The second gargoyle entering in the middle of the fight, I still remember the first time I saw it and my jaw dropped, and it's still a super enjoyable part. Every single time I get here, I still enjoy fighting the gargoyles. There's enough like control where, like, especially this second gargoyle always just kind of breathes fire. That's the thing that he does. But also enough chaos in the fight between them flying around, and if you don't quite have the DPS to kill them quickly, how they can interact between each other's pretty neat. Okay, I'm gonna kill you before I die. I would look pretty silly if I died at this point. Without the pine resin, looks like it would have taken probably about 9 swings with our Zweihander setup, which is not bad at all. Not bad at all. I also love the effect that every player that comes through here and rings the Bell of Awakening, that bell sound is carried out through worlds of everyone that's playing the game and in the vicinity of the bell. I think that's so cool. And like in the back of my head, every time I hear a bell ringing, I'm like, good job, dude. Fuck yeah, good job. Like someone playing the game heard that in their own world right now. That's so neat. All right, I'm gonna do a little bit of a weird route here. I'm taking the elevator in the cathedral down. I'm gonna get off on the roof of the starting ruins, and I'm gonna head back into the asylum really early on. Just like that. Heading back to the asylum, number 1, because I think this boss is pretty easy to take down, he says as he runs to the nearest bonfire just to make sure he could respawn here. Also, getting an early Titanite slab and the doll means that I can enter the painted world and go after a weapon that I want a little bit faster. That is one of the best draws about Dark Souls 1. Just the amount of variation you can have in your builds, in your run to fit your build. How cool is that entrance, dude? I think the entryway into the Stray Demon is one of the best ones in the game. It's disorienting, full of surprises, and then you're met with this guy's smiling face down here at the base of a pit. And for those of you who think he looks familiar, it's because he does. He's basically the cousin of the very first boss that you beat up in this area. I clearly underestimated my damage a little bit, but don't you worry, I'll get through it. The only difference this boss has to the one that we fought earlier is that he does an AoE in front of him. Unfortunately, once you know that and you know the strategy, all you really have to do is walk around him in circles for the entirety of the fight. I will only take damage if I'm stupid enough to go into melee range when he's slamming that axe down on the ground. And that wouldn't be a problem if we only fought this boss once, I feel, but the fact that he's reused several times throughout Dark Souls limits the amount of enjoyment I get from coming in here. Imagine if you fell into this dark pit and you were greeted by that Centipede Demon thing that you find in the lava area. How cool would that be? He starts moving around on the walls, you're cutting appendages off and they're wiggling around everywhere. Instead we hit this guy. Now, to this guy's credit, you can see this boss from the starting hallway where you begin the game at. If you look through the grates on the right hand side as you're leaving, you can see him walking around here. And I think that is a really cool world building aspect. And, oh, he turned really quick that time. And you wouldn't be like out of the realm of possibility to assume that it's the same boss that you fought earlier on, the Asylum Demon up top. I mean, for that, it's kind of cool to have that moment of realization, but that realization only takes you so far. Oh, also, just fun fact, this guy is super duper weak to bleeds. So if you are a katana wielder and you come in here, even at low levels, you should be able to rip through him pretty quickly. This has taken me forever. I'm still not done. Hey, that should be a hefty amount of souls for this early in the game, to be fair. And a Titanite slab, that's not bad at all. What do we get? 20,000, okay, 20,000, I'll take it, I'll take it. The doll to get into the painted world is at the end of this hallway. Hopefully my parry timings don't suck. Hey. Back at the Firelink Shrine, we have a few options for where we can go next. We could head down into Blighttown, or we could have some fun in the Catacombs. Really, if you're not going to play co-op a lot in your playthrough, this is one of the best things you can do to really spike your player power early on in the game. Also, you can make this even easier. When you run into the Necromancer room, just leave the game. If you could do that while moving. And what that's going to do is actually cause all of these skeletons that just spawned behind you to stop. And now you're only fighting the Necromancer here. There are a few things that take this zone from being one of the worst to making it, like, pretty enjoyable, actually. In order to speed right through this, no problem, you're going to want to get human form. And I know a lot of you know this skip, but I'm just including it anyway because it was such a game changer for me. First things first, we need to dodge these skeletons. Sometimes that's easier said than done. I do have a shield on my back, but if I equip the shield, then I deal no damage, and I guess it was better to not deal damage because I'm dead. There we go. Didn't back myself into a corner that time. If you stand right here and roll off, you literally just skipped most of the catacombs. All of the time the developers spent on this beautifully crafted zone, I can't even say that without laughing, has now been tossed to the wayside. How could you? This is also where you summon in Paladin Leroy, a character that makes the next boss so easy that you can do it this early in the game, usually with no issues whatsoever, as long as you can get down here in human form, which with that skip doesn't get much easier than that. The cutscene for Pinwheel, the one I just skipped on accident, is probably the coolest part of the fight. Also, I really like the randomness of this fight, where, you know, it's all based off of illusion magic with projectiles going everywhere, so you don't know which one is the real Pinwheel until you find him by either damaging him or dispelling his illusions. I do think that's really cool. However, the boss's health is so low that usually you don't get to see any of those mechanics really play out. I also like that this boss is has a chance to give you one of the best helmets in the game, especially for energy regeneration, very early on, if you're lucky enough to get it. So there's always that, you know, element of chance with the boss, even from a loot perspective. That's kind of fun. If Leroy connects with the real boss, he basically does enough to kill the boss, and I want to say 5 swings, maybe 3 swings. Leroy is an absolute monster. And if you want to make it easier, just fight anything that he isn't. Now for the moment of truth. We get the Rite of Kindling, which allows us to upgrade our Estus flasks past the normal 10 that we can carry. We can bring it up to 20 by using humanity. Ah, the Mask of the Father. Okay, all right, fine. And then to get out of here, Homer Bone, because walking back up sucks. As you are approaching the Moonlight Butterfly, underneath the stairs, is an NPC that you can summon in to basically make this one of the most trivial fights in the entire game. She likes to make friends, by the way, so, you know, make sure she gets in there in one piece. Good shot, seriously. I don't know the story of Beatrice or how she came to be at the bottom of these stairs, but I suspect that her backstory has something to do with the developers not wanting everyone to have well-rounded builds. If you were using a dex build and you had a nice bow and a katana or a dagger or whatever you want to use with a dex build, you'd be able to fight this boss pretty well. If you were an intelligence caster, you'd be able to fight it pretty well. However, if you're an all-strength-based character like me and you don't own a crossbow, then Beatrice is how you get around that. The Moonlight Butterfly itself is kind of scary on the first few attempts, until you realize that you can stand here to line of sight quite a bit of stuff. There are 2 different patterns that can happen with her spells, as well as some beams that she can throw out as well. These fast attacks, you can avoid a lot of that damage by simply having your shield up, and the bigger, slower attacks, you want to just roll out of the way of. This is when melee-only characters have an opportunity to damage the boss, but one thing you may have noticed is that Beatrice did a lot of the work for us. On the positive side, it is once again the developers rewarding you for exploring an area. That was a very hard spot to find underneath those stairs. It didn't stand out very well at all. However, the novelty of this fight wears off pretty quick when you realize that Beatrice can just do all of it for you and you don't have to do anything. There is a really good shield in the graveyard that can help you mitigate a little bit of magic damage in the cemetery that leads down to the catacombs where we just were. And probably my most memorable fight with the butterfly was early on in our Let's Play series, years and years and years ago. We had an attempt where the boss literally just flew away. Like, I was standing, I think right here, and the boss just slowly backed up, phased through that wall, and continued to go. Where? I don't know, but I had to homeward bone out after like 20 minutes of waiting for the boss to come back. Speaking of which, I mainly only kill the Moonlight Butterfly for the souls, and it makes Andre really happy when you bring him the Divine Ember. Before we head down to Blighttown. Oh yeah, I never freed that guy. Well, it was nice knowing you. By the way, just in case you didn't know, I guess I'm just throwing in random facts with my guide here. The master key is what allows us to use this path here early on in the game without having to descend the, quote, intended way into Blighttown. But this is the better way. You probably want to do it this way. I once again think it's cool that an NPC that you encounter in an area can be used to fight the boss. I especially think it's cool because Maneater Mildred is first presented as an enemy who presumably is just going after anyone who enters Blighttown with humanity. She's just trying to devour any humans that she can for souls. Come on. Oh, you gotta get up a little earlier than... Oh yeah, I still can't use this weapon in one hand. There are a lot of things to not like about Blighttown, and I don't think Maneater Mildred's one of them. I think Maneater Mildred's pretty cool. Now that we killed her, we can actually use her in the boss fight as well, which is a great setup for characters who focus on mainly fire damage. I did a pyromancer only build in here one time and literally could not damage the boss. I had to punch her with my fist for 45 fucking minutes to get the kill. By going into the forest first, we do have some purple moss clumps that we can use to get rid of the poison, which is kind of nice for this route. Oh, also, there is a cheese that you used to be able to do. I don't know if you can still do it. My suspicion is that you can. As you summon in NPCs or other players in co-op, the bosses that you fight have increased health based on the number of players that you have. However, there used to be a cheese where if you summon someone and then immediately enter a portal, it doesn't scale up the boss's health because that player's not in your world yet. But then they can enter as the fight opens up. Quelaag's probably one of the most iconic bosses in the game, I would say. Also, single-handedly the character most guilty of getting me demonetized. So let's watch. Where do you think this is going? Well, your imagination will have to do. Hey, this seems as good of a time as any. Thank you to our supporters who clicked the join button to become a member here on YouTube and are supporting us financially, regardless of what the demonetization bot does to us. I appreciate you. You're the real heroes. Quelaag's is a pretty cool fight. There's a lot of dynamic movements to it. You never really know when the boss is going to be spreading lava around the area. This is also the first time we see area denial really being used. I mean, I guess the gargoyles do breathe fire, but this fire lasts on the ground. Believe it or not, Mayonnaise or Mildred can actually solo this fight if she doesn't stand in lava for the entire time. We've narrated this fight many a time as a spectator rather than a combatant. I already talked about when I played with Tim, I was a pyromancer only and could barely damage the boss. But this is also, when I was learning the game, this is the boss I co-opted the most with just randos, trying to help them out as much as possible. This fight in particular felt really hard for me when we were doing the bow only challenge, just because staying at range really makes Quelaag's movement a lot more sporadic. There is a pocket you can stand in the front. I'll try to show you where the pocket is. That usually keeps you pretty safe. It's about right here. And you can swing your weapon without much danger being directly pointed at you. You have to roll every now and then. The main thing you have to look out for when you're in the pocket is the Quelaag's either exploding from the back, it does like a little butt wiggle, or vomiting fire out in front of you. But even that pocket's not guaranteed to be safe because of just the dynamic movements on this fight. Really, really cool design. I think this half spider, half girl is always super interesting. Always thematically really enjoyed it. And the story of Quelaag's and her sister is really, really heartbreaking. If you ever want to get into the lore of this game, I actually think their covenant in particular is pretty cool. All in all, I would say out of the two bosses that lead to the bells, I think Quelaag's takes the cake. I think it's a super cool encounter. Really, really enjoy it. So when you unlock teleporting, there is a secret bonfire over here that you can teleport back to.
Oh dear, what have we here?
Yes, I am a new servant.
I pray.
This is also where you get one of the several Firekeeper souls that you actually can gather throughout a playthrough, but I will stay my blade for now. Hello, good to see you. Since we're down here, we might as well kill Ceaseless Discharge too. One of the saddest stories in the game, also one of the biggest bosses in the game. Unfortunately, there's a very easy cheese to kill the boss, and I'm going to do it because it's funny. If you fight the boss normally, there's a few attack patterns you just have to look out for to dodge under. Hopefully, we'll be able to avoid all of that. If you're fighting this guy legitimately, you want to make sure that you have a light enough roll to get a lot of immunity frames. In fact, the ninja flip ring can be a really big help on this fight. Just because if he hits you, he hits so hard that he'll likely kill most characters, especially at this stage of the game. In order to get him really mad, you need to steal his sister's clothes. He, of course, has been watching over that because it's her grave. And now we're going to desperately run away from the big man. Oh, yeah. Okay, thank you. So all this lava that you're seeing down beneath us Ceaseless is responsible for that. In order to be able to venture down into the lower levels of this lava field, you have to defeat him. And we're not really intended to fight him right now. However, if you steal those clothes, run away all the way to the door, Ceaseless then decides to jump off the side in a last-ditch effort to get his sister's belongings back. And, well, that's when you just make his story even sadder because he can't hold on for long. This makes one of the, I would say not the most difficult or anything, but certainly one of the hardest hitting bosses in the game, a complete cakewalk. And I do like that it's there. You might think that that would take away from the satisfaction of killing the boss. I like that there's multiple ways of taking that down, and there's a fun little cheesy way. I think that's neat. I think more bosses should have fun little cheesy ways to kill them. The run out of here is not fun. If there's one thing they could improve, it's leaving Blighttown. Okay, I got a weird route to connect us back to the main path we're supposed to be on now. I've never done this before, but I think it makes a lot of sense. So as we're leaving this room, we're going to take a right. Now just make it to the other end of the Valley of the Drakes. Keep on sleeping, little buddy. We take the elevator up. We get arguably the best shield in the game. We go to Havel's house. Hello, Havel. Then back up to the Taurus Demon. And then boom! Oh, I didn't pick up the key. Fuck. I knew I was forgetting something. God, I remember using the 60 FPS mod prior to the remastered version of this game coming out. And if you slid down this ladder, you would just kind of go through the floor every single time. I've died so many times on that ladder. Hey, this place should look pretty familiar. I'm going to use our Rite of Kindling to kindle this up to +4. That means I'm going to, or +3. Whatever I need to do to get 20 Estus flasks is what I'm going to do here, because ideally I never stop at another bonfire all the way through the next 2 bosses, if everything goes well. So I typically don't run with a lot of poise at this stage in the game, and if you are in the same boat as me, this boss can be a little troublesome. I usually save my gold pine resin for here, in fact. I think they did a great job of really making the player feel claustrophobic in this area, where most boss encounters in Dark Souls are very wide open spaces. You're immediately assaulted by not only one giant demon, but his 4-legged friends as well. If you have some poise, these dogs are not as big of a deal. I'm actually probably dead. Yeah, pinned in the corner. Where were we? There is a cheese you can do on this boss, if you want to call it that. I would say it's more of an advantage than anything else. If you can get yourself to the top of the stairs and away from the dogs, you can stand in this back corner. Stand here with your shield out, and the boss usually just throws himself off the side. And that gives you a second to deal with the dog's mono. This is also a way that you can like cheese some plunging attacks against this guy as he bounces off the wall, as the boss just did. If you come in here with some poise, this is usually not a big deal. But after the dogs are taken care of, a lot of the main threat of the boss also goes away. He's certainly not the most memorable guy. I would say his arena is more exciting than him. And, well, he at least gives you the key to the depths. That's something. Ooh, Demon Machete, rare drop, let's go! Doing this all in one go is certainly going to be a challenge, but I think we're fine. Our Estus flasks aren't that upgraded, so every time we heal, it's a pretty big commitment for not a lot of payoff. You want to come into the depths for a few reasons. This is where one of the main embers used to upgrade weapons is located, and I'm heading towards that right now. This is also where the pyromancy vendor is located if you're interested in that. But also one of the, I think, coolest optional bosses in the game. Oh, fuck! There you go, bud. Go to sleep. This belongs to me. You know, just like the Catacombs, I used to really not like this zone. Until I learned one easy trick that all doctors are gonna hate you for knowing. If you hug the far... Whoa! You hug the far left side of this slope, you go over a pit of water that would normally lead you directly into a bunch of frogs that curse you, whereas this path leads you directly to the boss in mere seconds. Once again, a phenomenal intro, probably one of the best in the game. A little curious head appears over a large chasm on the far side. Ooh, what's this cute little guy doing? And slowly but surely, the gaping dragon emerges from the depths. I do think this is a really cool boss. It reinforces destructible body parts. You can cut the tail off of this guy. It introduces a couple new mechanics, like the vomit on this boss will actually break your weapons. I didn't say it was a fun mechanic, but it is a mechanic. It also incentivizes the player to once again explore the area to make a boss easier. You can summon in Sunbro here. But you can also kill a caster that's going to be buffing the boss if you explore the area first. Because we didn't do that, our boss is actually going to be harder than what he could be if we were a little more thorough in our exploration. Unfortunately, the Gaping Dragon falls into a pattern pretty easily. This is his tantrum, pretty easy to spot. As long as we keep moving away from the archer, we won't have too much trouble. He puts his head down. This is when you, the player, try to attack the head. Ideally, we get 2 swings in there. The head takes critical damage on this fight. The tail, oh, another really cool mechanic. The tail has its own moveset. He has a tail sweep with this, which actually covers a pretty wide area. It's a pretty deadly attack. But if you cut the tail off, not only are you getting that bonus item, but you're also effectively removing one of the boss's abilities that he can use against you. Such a cool mechanic. What it boils down to usually, though, is you just stand a few feet in front of him so that he notices you. He then puts his head down, you hit him in the head, and then he charges into the wall. There's actually a lot of like downtime here. Kind of the same with the Moonlight Butterfly, where sometimes there... Oh, that sucks. Well, I mean, I already got the Ember. He's totally optional. I think I'm chilling. I remember the first time I beat the Gaping Dragon, I messaged my friend Rui, who is super into Dark Souls, and I was like, in all caps, "You won't believe it! I just killed the Gaping fucking Dragon for the first time!" I remember that being such a triumphant moment in my Dark Souls career. He is a fun boss. I'm gonna make this halberd +5. I'm gonna use it to upgrade a weapon in a little bit.
Get you.
And we're heading into the best zone in the game by far, Sense Fortress. Probably my favorite zone in all of Souls games. I love how much fear and dread I experienced in this place as I was awaiting terror around every single corner. And I love that now all of that is gone and I can basically run this place with my eyes closed without ever stopping, without ever missing a beat. This zone, to me, encapsulates what is so fun about Dark Souls. It's meeting a just massive challenge in front of you and slowly learning the ins and outs of what it takes to be successful through trial and error, and then overcome that challenge. In fact, one of the funnest skips, I think, is right here around the corner. As the balls start to move this way, you turn your back. Oh, I didn't quite do it right. Turn your back into a back step, which gives you more immunity frames than a roll for a quick second. And then you're able to skip this entire section of the rolling ball area. And I'm basically at the very top of the fortress already. You know, I haven't even thought about this in such a long time. But this boss effectively has a mechanic that punishes you if you don't explore as well. There are these giants at the top of Sen's fortress who are just chucking down these explosive boulders. And if you don't take him out, he'll continue to throw boulders into the fight. I just always took that for granted, like you have to go up here to kill this in order to progress, that I didn't even think that you are actually exploring to change the boss fight yet again. It was just always so natural to me. All right, Billy, calm down. If you are human form, you can walk to the end of this hallway and summon in Black Iron Tarkus, who can single-handedly solo this fight. This is yet again another example of a difficult boss that's guarding progression in this game that you can alleviate most of the challenge on by summoning in a static NPC companion. I'll never count this Iron Golem out, dude. Every time I do, he throws me off a cliff. I always treat this boss with so much respect. I have a lot of good memories of watching him just fight Tarkus and just throwing Tarkus off the map. I also did a co-op playthrough early on when Dark Souls came to PC for the first time. I did a playthrough early on where in co-op with my friend Mucka, I actually got thrown off this platform by the Iron Golem. But instead of dying, I just hovered over the trees as if nothing was happening. I really love this mechanic on this boss. If you're able to deal consistent enough damage to his toes, he can actually fall down. And if you position him correctly on the bridge here, you can actually get him to fall off the map. He's also a perfect candidate to use that gold pine resin if you didn't use it on any of the other enemies that we fought. And it's early enough in the game that you're kind of... I wasn't going to say expected to have it, but likely to still have it. Man, I've never died like that before. Oh, no, 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 no! Ah! Oh my fucking god!
You know what I like about Dark Souls, bro? When you die, it's your fault. The game never cheats you. It's all about you versus the game. Just get better.
Excuse me? What? What? There you go, asshole! How does it feel? How does it feel down there? Yeah, that's what I thought. Yo, this is still one of the best cutscenes in the game, and I still watch it most times. That's so good, dude. 53,000 souls is a lot to have at this stage in the game and not spend it. I'm only level 36, which means I wouldn't say we're under-leveled because we've definitely killed some optional bosses that we didn't need to getting into here. But I did commit a fair amount of our resources to upgrading not only this Vihander, but allocating extra points into strength to use it because I thought it'd be a pretty good early game weapon, which it is. But those things kind of set us back a little bit. I'm going to be hanging on to these souls, which is a little reckless, while I try to make my way into a place you may not expect. Oh, gets me every time. I'm heading into the painted world before Smough Ornstein. I don't particularly like the painted world. I think thematically it's really cool. Like the lore's neat that this is the place the gods stashed away all the stuff they didn't want to talk about anymore. I think that's pretty cool. But actually being here sucks, especially when you have teleportation because you can't use it anymore. Now, unfortunately for us, we don't have that. Now, I'm not saying that I'm the one that made this trick, but I am saying that I was the first one who I saw do it. And it really simplifies this area so much. You just jump from... Oh, that's a lot of damage, boys. You just jump from here over this wall into the main courtyard and die. There we go. And that gives us the shortcut back into the Firelink Shrine here. Or the bonfire here, I guess I should say. To give myself the best shot possible of getting out of here, I gave myself 20 Estus flasks as well. So instead of going to the underground area and searching for a key, we are just going to run past all of these dudes. I guess you're not looking for a key, are you? You're spinning a thing downstairs. The key is for a different area. We're just going to run through this fog door, make our way up to the top. And actually, where we're going to progress is also where we're going to get an item that I need as well. Yeah, this shield right here is the one I want. Thank you. After we defeat our no-legged friend here, I mean, you could have picked up the shield at this point, I guess. But you can actually skip the rest of this area by running right up to his legs that he detached from and doing a forward R2 attack. That makes his legs stand up for reasons I can't even begin to tell you. You could skip the entire puzzle of the painted world and go on to the last boss, which is coincidentally the other thing I need in here, the soul of Priscilla. There's a lot of fan theories about who her parents are. There's also a pretty cool boss because as she fades away, you really have to pay attention to your environment way more than any other boss in the game. We're looking for tracks in the snow coming closer to us so we know where to stand to be safe. Conceptually, very, very, very cool idea. Boss hits super duper hard and does have a tail that can be cut, although it's notoriously one of the hardest hitboxes in the game to really hit. As long as you know what you're looking for, Priscilla can be brought out of stealth, no problem. You can dodge almost all of her attacks just by being on this side that I've been located for this entire fight. Hey, Priscilla's dagger, we did it! A lot of people don't like that you're killing this boss because of the lore. I always get comments about it. I always get people on the stream that stop by and they're like, hey, what the fuck are you doing? But hey, she's got to go. As far as, you know, how I feel about the boss, it's pretty meh. The fight itself, probably it's like a 3 out of 10. I haven't really been giving ratings to these. It has one cool mechanic and then you just kind of stand in one spot the entire time. 93,000 souls, look at that! You know, I suppose one thing about Priscilla too is it's one of the few bosses that gives you the option to just leave. Or you can be greedy and leave with extra souls. I think there is something to be said about that. I think that's cool. Oh, by the way, the gargoyles are just here now. Please don't kill me. Please don't kill me. Please don't kill me. I just realized that this is another great example of a zone that is really cool and really intricate and really well designed. But it's also a zone that I just completely skip every single time. Just by jumping over that ledge. Do I even like Dark Souls? Okay, the reason we've been saving all of these souls is I actually wanted to use my new weapon before we fought Smough Ornstein. So we go to the giant blacksmith. We want to purchase items, these large titanite shards. We have 6 right now, so all we need to do is buy 3 more. That's going to be 11,000 right there. You can't reinforce to plus 10, right? Okay. I'll be back. I have to go back to Andre's house. Now we take the halberd that I've been upgrading, give the giant blacksmith Priscilla's soul, and all of a sudden we have a life hunt scythe, which does phenomenal bleed damage, but also bleeds the user of the scythe. That's why we picked up the blood shield, so we can attack without bleeding ourselves out over and over and over again. At least that's what we were going for. Really, really fun shield and weapon combination. Thought it'd be fun for this run. How do I reinforce this weapon? What is it? Demon Titanite. Well, I know where to get that. Hello, I need a piece of you. Ow. I have slain all of the demons in Sin's Fortress, Anor Londo, and in Andre's house. Used the demonic titanite to upgrade my life hunt scythe to +4. It's doing 252 damage a swing. We compare that to the Zweihander that we had before. That's doing 195, but that's just the beginning of the story because this applies so much bleed with every swing. Of course, that's going to bleed against us as well. So we equip the gold-hemmed black hood from Ceaseless Discharge, as well as the gloves from Black Iron Gauntlets from the Black Iron Tarkus set. And we have a massive amount of bleed resistance. Actually, 206. Oh, man. We planned out the run. Look at us go. Oh, more than 206. I unequipped the gloves. We have 231. Time for the most iconic fight in the game, in my opinion. Smough Ornstein is intense, chaotic, and extremely memorable. I remember my first time I cleared this, and you get a different cutscene based off of which boss you kill first. Already such a cool concept. But I remember already wanting to play through the game again after seeing how Smough took care of Ornstein. I wanted to see what Ornstein would do. Turns out one of these guys is an asshole. Who would have guessed? Okay, looks like I'm dead. I have a lot of really fond memories of this boss. There was the Smough Ornstein cosplay playthrough that Ruakan and I did so many years ago. Such a fun playthrough as well, where I was dressed up and geared up as Ornstein in the game, trying to, I was Ornstein, right? Trying to get the most out of his weapon, using rings and equipment that makes sense for the character. Super duper fun time, where Rui was playing as Smough and doing the same thing. Disregard the fact that my souls are over at the entrance. I may have just run in here and died earlier. Having unupgraded Estus flasks at this stage in the game was definitely a life choice that I would not do again. This boss can be sporadic. Sometimes they're hyper aggressive. Sometimes they just kind of do the same move over and over, and they're pretty easy to run down. Smough is so weak to bleeds. I'm going to focus all of my attention on him just to... Oh, I don't know why that didn't connect. Just to try to get us into phase 2 as soon as possible. There was also the speedrun challenge I did where I was trying to learn speedrun routes in this game. And let's just say I had a really fucking hard time on Smough Ornstein. It was something like, oh, I'm okay. No, I'm not. Oh, I even killed him. You died. The speedrun challenge took me at least 30 attempts. I had to clear this fight without taking damage at any stage. If they hit me at all, I was pretty much just dead. Ooh, we have a really good damage opening here. I'm going to keep the R2s up on Ornstein, try to keep moving around the room. He's going to charge forward. Let's just line of sight with the pillar. That'll stop both of them in their tracks. Ornstein dodging my art. Oh my god. There we go. First stage cleared. And this time around, other than that hit, Smough literally just watched the action happen. All right, Smough, nice and easy, bud. Let me bleed you out. Don't move too much. I think I'm just gonna have to commit to using my R2s just to get inside of his hitbox a little more. That's so much damage too. Oh, look at that bleed. This is exactly why I wanted to upgrade this weapon before we got here. Oh, and exactly why I needed more endurance in my build. One thing that I do think is really cool about this fight is based off of who you kill first. Let's say I wanted Ornstein's gear later on in the game. If I kill Ornstein first, that means the vendor that sells boss armor will actually give me his gear. Ooh, there's Smough. And if I wanted to use a polearm like Ornstein, he drops one of the best rings in the game for that kind of playstyle. If we wanted to play as Smough, smash things into the ground, and wield a mace that requires way too much strength to be able to use, we could do that. But it's a choice made by the player. I think that kind of stuff is important. I think that kind of stuff is really meaningful. I think I don't have any time to heal on this fight. All right, Super Smough, I can do this. I've played this game before. I know. I should know when the immunity windows are. All right, R2's right from the roll. None of those connected. Instead, hitting the mace, we roll through the mace to dodge the charge. Here's the butt slam, we roll away. I don't have enough stamina for this. Oh my fucking god. One of my first things I ever bought when I actually started making money on YouTube, you know, like enough of a paycheck where it was like, Mom, Dad, look what I'm doing over here. Isn't this cool? I purchased a Smough Ornstein statue off the internet, and it was like so satisfying when that arrived. I was like, I earned this. These are my two favorite fucking bosses in the game, and I can display it proudly in my house. Like, back in the day, we were a Dark Souls YouTuber. We would play this game all day, every day. Rain, sleet, snow, hail, didn't matter. We were in Dark Souls. Ooh, good cleave there. It felt cool to be able to show that off. Here we go. I got an opening, and I'm taking it. One more swing. Actually, ton of bleed damage to Smough there. Since I can't actually avoid the butt slam, we're gonna go up against Ornstein instead. This should actually favor my low amount of endurance. And just another example of why this is such a good fight, because I can actually tailor the fight to my character's strengths. I still got hit by Smough. What the fuck? Hold on, Ornstein, please just let me heal. I want to win this fight already. He's charging forward. We put a pillar in between us. He's doing it again. He's still confused. Just don't get stabbed. There's the blood loss. There's the damage. And Smough Ornstein is down. I still have a smile on my face every time. That's such a good boss fight. And it's so different every time based off of how the two characters play together. Such a good design from top to bottom. A++. I know I haven't really been ranking these, but that was so good. I usually just kill Guinevere right away, but I actually don't have anything to throw at her today because I haven't been picking up any items. So,
come hither.
My princess, let me bow to you. Now that we have teleporting from unlocking the Lord vessel, we can head back down to the Daughters of Chaos. Kill the Firekeeper. Sorry, buddy, nothing personal.
You monster!
And begin probably the worst marathon of bosses in the game. I know a lot of you were looking forward to this part. So story-wise, why are we coming down here? Well, we just got the Lord vessel, which we have to put the souls of great lords into. One of which is down at the very, very bottom of this lava area. Up there is where we fought Ceaseless Discharge earlier. You know, that is one thing Dark Souls does phenomenally. The map design always lets you see places you've been before, places you haven't been to, but will one day, and new views on vistas that were familiar previously. Weapon feeling pretty good. 2 swings on that guy is gonna take him out. But, ugh. This area is cool because previous bosses are showing up as just normal enemies, like the Taurus Demon there, and the one that we fought early on with the dogs. I don't know if you noticed that. The one we killed in like 3 swings. Previously, a boss. You know who else was previously a boss? The Demon FIresage just looks just like all the other ones. The only difference is he has a plunging attack that gets him into the fight a little bit faster. Unfortunately for him, getting into the fight a little bit faster means he's going to get himself into our bleed damage a little bit quicker. He has the same AoE as our other friends, and we do the same strategy of just getting behind him to avoid it. 2 quick R2s completely start to bleed him out, and easily one of the most disappointing bosses in the game. If memory serves, he drops a good wand though. Literally, he's only here for souls. That's it. I think the Centipede Demon is super cool. The saving grace of this entire section of the game. Back on the original Prepare to Die edition that came to PC, all of this was rendered in client. So this cutscene was super duper laggy when this guy was spawning in. It was a cutscene that you would lose FPS in. It's specifically right here. His entrance is super sweet. His design is super sweet. The only other characters that really move like him in the game as well are probably Manus and Artorias, which are much, much, much later bosses for us to fight. So he's definitely a cool character for a lot of reasons. Once you know the trick, which is to come over here and then dodge roll for a little bit, the fight does become easier. One of the main mechanics, though, is the fact that this guy's body can be torn off and then regrown later. So during the fight, we're going to be cutting off some of the appendages of this beast in order to actually deal damage to it. Let me see if I can get under here. Normally, there's a bit more of a standoff at the beginning. He kind of jumped right into the action today. While he's in the air, dodging the slam becomes the #1 priority. Boss also has a really cool grapple effect, which he can like suck up someone into this ball of energy that he has underneath him. Just so many cool effects, so many cool ideas, and as you can see, when he's up close, so intimidating too. Let's see if I can cut this tail off. I'm gonna need you to stop fucking jumping up into the air every time I swing, bud. Despite us having a scythe, we really don't have that much reach. And the creepiest thing is, as you cut off these body parts, they actually, like, have a mind of their own. They will start to scurry towards you. It's almost like it's out of a horror game, to be honest. That's some scary shit. This boss is required because we need to go down here, but also because he drops a ring, and it's going to be the second ring that I'm going to equip, the Orange Charred Ring. Another cool thing about this boss is you get that ring automatically if you just defeat him, or you can pick the ring up during the fight if you cut off the tail of the enemy. So let's say you actually come in here, you get a few licks in, you manage to cut the tail off and loot the ring. Your subsequent run, if you manage to die during the fight, could change. Your strategy could change because you got a new piece of equipment even before taking the boss down. Not a lot of bosses in this game do that. It's pretty cool. And now for easily the most disappointing area in Dark Souls. There's just a bunch of dragon legs down here because they didn't know what else to put in here, so they just literally stand around and don't do anything unless you get too close, and then they kill you. The Bed of Chaos. The Abomination of Dark Souls, some have called it. That's what I just called it now. I've never heard that before, but it seems pretty appropriate. Not only do you have to slide down this extremely long slide every time you want to challenge this boss, but as you progress during the boss, things just get more and more and more difficult. Now, I know a few cheeses for this boss, and I'm definitely going to be using them for today. There are some cool aspects to this, though. Yes, it can feel extremely cheap when a giant tree arm just rolls through the air, swipes at you, and kills you. That kind of sucks. I think we can all agree on that. But this is one of the very few bosses in the series where progress persists between attempts. So I moved up to the extremely vulnerable left arm of the tree, sliced into it, and got to the core of it. And when I damage the core, it only takes one hit. Your damage on this fight doesn't matter at all. All that matters is persistence, perseverance. I'm gonna leave the game now that that's done, because the progress of that fight is saved. We're going to start at the top of the ramp and slide back down. You may be thinking to yourself, this fight doesn't look that hard, Pally. What are you talking about? Well, as you run around, the floor just disappears. There's no rhyme or reason to it. Well, there is. There's actually a predetermined pattern that's the same every attempt, but you have no way of knowing that when you're just starting out. You have no way of knowing where all of the safe spots are. You have no way of knowing whether or not his arm is gonna roll through and completely ruin your day. Twice. Okay, I died. And then I get to do this great run again. There is a little cheese you can do if you have a bow. You can follow the left side, just like I did previously, towards the safe spot. Stand on the other side of this branch and just zoom in with your gun, or with your bow, excuse me. And just continue to fire off shots at the glowy part in there. And when you hit it, again, it doesn't really matter what your damage on this fight is. The only thing that matters is that you did something. So when it impacts the thing in the middle, it will count as a kill, and then you don't have to do any of this running part here. Luckily for us, okay, I guess I won't say anything until I actually kill it. I was gonna say, lucky for us, we made it through, but even that is not certain on the Bed of Chaos. It's much easier to leave the game than it is to try to traverse backwards over everything that just changed. Once you get back to the middle, your next obstacle is just seeing where you can run. Which is going to be... I was gonna say, which is gonna be back from the graveyard, because I was just fucking one-shot again. Okay, we got to be quick about this. There's an easy way of doing it and a hard way of doing it. You know, come to think of it, this demon comes back. Does that mean I can finish farming this demon stuff off him? I should only need one more kill, actually. I killed him earlier. Oh, okay. Yeah, all right. All right, the easy way is to get one particular hand clap to go through. You don't want the double-sided swipe like what he just did. Please don't kill me. You want the left hand of the boss to swing and then have him slam the ground after. Now, ideally, you don't get hit by his fucking red shit right as that happens. This is the correct swing. Now we go. We walk off the side. Okay. Every single time I have to run down here, literally all I'm thinking is, well, time to get frustrated again. Time to die a bunch to a fucking boss that I hate. And it's the same every run. This is by far the worst boss of the game, the worst experience in the game. And the run back is just so tedious. It's not even like it's interesting. All these enemies can be easily sidestepped. Just monotonous. Maybe because I've done it so many hundreds of times. My favorite memory of this boss is I was watching some Twitch streams years ago, and this girl was sponsored by Logitech. They sent her a steering wheel to, I assume, play racing games with, but she was like, nah, bro, let's do one even better. And she was streaming Dark Souls being played on a steering wheel, which is such a fun idea. Now, these days, Dark Souls has been streamed on everything. I think someone even streamed it on bananas. Don't ask me how that works. But it was so cool to see someone's genuine first try on the bed of chaos using a steering wheel. Some people just have patience of saints. I'm not one of them anymore. So we can go in between these swings. It is possible. We have to land perfectly on this. Wait for the beard to settle, because at the end of all of this, you can die to literally a beard. And then there's also the fire attack that you can die to, that if is used at the right time, there's literally nowhere for you to run away from. Yes, dude, yes. Oh my God! Don't die to the beard. Don't die to the beard. Please. Just let me in, mister. Just let me in. And the big climax. Oh my God, please don't fuck. Holy shit. Ah. Are you fucking kidding me? Oh my God. Oh! Oh, I didn't die this time, asshole. I didn't die this time. Don't you kill me with the beard either. And the big payoff, the big climax, is that it was a fucking bug controlling the giant tree this entire time. And you're telling me that this is a Great Lord's soul? What? All right, I decided to break this up into a couple play sessions. I'm about 3 hours in right now, and before I end this one, I'm going to purchase the Crest of Artorias and go have my heart broken. Man, I think the forest is one of my favorite zones too. I like that the NPCs hanging out have the same models as a lot of the starting classes for the player. I like the Covenant here. I like playing in the Covenant here, let's put it that way, where you can help to defend the forest from invaders. This area feels super duper dangerous. It has one of the best items in the game, the wood flip ring. or whatever it's called, the ninja flip ring that you can get by killing an enemy here. It has two different ways in, one with the Crest of Artorias and one just climbing up a big ladder that's hidden behind a giant Hydra. And let's not forget, it has the best enemies in the game. These little mushrooms, they're so cute. The babies are fine. Just, you know, don't go near the parents. It'll be lights out for you. The boss of this area is required because it gives you a ring you have to use to fight one of the Lord Soul Bearers. But there is an alternate cutscene to the beginning of this fight. If you did the DLC first, it can slightly alter the interaction that starts at the beginning. This, once again, is one of the most iconic bosses in the game. I feel like I keep saying that, but this one really is true. As far as mechanics of the boss go, Sif is pretty straightforward. If you stay underneath his belly, it'll be pretty difficult for him to do much of anything. Remember, we have a bleed weapon that's going to be hitting pretty hard here too if I actually connect with all of my swings. He can do some weird stuff, and it is a pretty aggressive fight, which I tend to prefer. He definitely keeps you on his toes. I also like that you can kind of come into this fight whenever you want. Even though it is a mandatory fight, you can save it for the end of the game and come into this fight significantly stronger than what we are doing here. If he hits me one more time, I'm certainly dead. We're in the pocket. We can heal up really fast. I think the concept for this boss is pretty cool. I look forward to fighting Sif every time. I think he's pretty neat. But there's nothing too complicated here. I think what a lot of people are really drawn to is his story implications and the cool relationship of Sif and Artorias together. All in all, one of the better bosses in the game, though. I joined the Forest Covenant to get the cat ring. Just kidding, that's not the reason. It's just a result of joining. I'm then going to immediately murder this ninja. And by immediately murder, I clearly meant miss the first swing on purpose. He drops a very, very good ring, one that allows us to get more immunity frames on our flip. And I would very much like to have that. Also, could you stop fucking talking to me so I can fight you, please? Thank you. Another thing I still need to do is use the Black Eye Orb to get my Firekeeper back at the Firelink Shrine. If your Firekeeper dies, this is how you get them back. You go into Anor Londo, walk into this room, hopefully avoid that big dude over there. The Black Eye will quiver, and you basically invade an NPC. Don't do it! Now all you have to do is win a 1v3. We're gonna line of sight the mage. Heavy attacks on this dude.
It is a terrible pity. Like a moth flittering towards a flame.
Easy clap.
No?
So I'm actually going to use the Ring of Favor and Protection, which we just got from him, and then probably Havel's Ring. My roll isn't light enough for the wood ring yet, but it will be by the end of our run. Poison Throwing Knife. That'll work just fine, thank you. Also, while I'm thinking about it, jumping across here, underneath the main walkway by the Firelink Shrine to grab this Ring of Sacrifice. Now that I can actually throw something at this boss, we're gonna do it. And send all of Anor Londo into darkness.
Thou that tarnisheth the Godmother's image, I am Gwyndolin. And thy transgression shall not go unpunished. Thou shalt perish in the twilight of Anor Londo.
I still think that's a really cool cutscene. And it's probably the easiest way to open up an optional boss, which is the person who just spoke to us. Killing Guinevere also makes the Firekeeper of Anor Londo pretty mad, you know, because you dispelled their illusion and stuff. So killing this Firekeeper is going to give us another Firekeeper soul. We haven't actually used these yet, but they are used to upgrade your Estus Flask to heal for more. Buff your weapon. Go ahead.
But
Oh, wait.
how?
Then if we push this middle staircase down, it will reveal Gwyndolin's room. And this normally has a statue in front of it, but because we threw Anor Londo into darkness, we can see right through it already. And there's a ring you can find in the Catacombs to open this place up without killing Guinevere, if you ever wanted to do that. And that's how you would join the Covenant in here, just in case you needed to know. This boss fight itself is extremely simple. Once you know what to look for, the boss does 4 things. The first one is teleporting, which simply moves the boss further down the hallway. Then we have these small projectiles and a large projectile. For the small, you line of sight. For the large, you have to move out of the way, either by rolling or moving diagonally. Every time these small projectiles come out, it is imperative that you line of sight. When the boss stands up on their hindquarters, they are shooting arrows at you that you can easily dodge, once again, by running diagonally. I'm not going to do it in this video because it takes way too long and I'm kind of on a tight schedule today. But you can actually run all the way to the very end of this hallway if you have the determination to do so. We've done it many, many, many times. We've also done it for a charity stream incentive to raise some money for kids. Speaking of which, November 6th, we're raising money for Extra Life.
Oh, heretic.
Doesn't get much easier than that. And now for the part that I hate. The Duke's Archives. One of the coolest zones in the game, if we're all just being honest. But after doing it several hundred times, it's lost a lot of its luster. This area is protected by 2 gigantic boars, similar to the ones we encountered early on in the game, but these actually have protection over their rectum, so you can't stab them in it. They're pretty intimidating, but there's an extremely easy trick, which is to run to this corner, and these guys will get stuck. They can also just get stuck in the doorway, so let's just say they're not the most intimidating of enemies. I wish I had a little bit more reach on my weapon, but if I just keep my butt in this corner, there's literally nothing they can do. There is a speedrunning skip to go past the entirety of the Duke's Archives almost. I don't typically do it because I haven't put in enough time to master it, so I usually just end up dying much longer than it actually takes me to just complete the Duke's Archives. But I'll at least show you how that works. So you take this elevator up, step off. No, you gotta pull the lever again first. Then run off. Jump on the corner to my left. And then when you're standing on this corner, you roll off onto one of these balconies as the elevator is descending. Very, very tricky to do. Like I said, I don't bother doing it. If you can get it consistently, you can get out of this place so much faster, though. I'll try one more time. Oh, stuck it, and... Oh, motherfucker. All right, so to do this place normally, you are going to want to wear the Ring of Sacrifice that we picked up at the Firelink Shrine. You're also going to want to go into this with low health, so I actually should have not healed after falling on the elevator. Hey, that'll do. Thanks, bud. I hate this part. It's a forced death. It doesn't feel good. It's not enjoyable. It's like setting yourself up for a, oh man, this boss is crazy. How are we ever going to kill it? But it's more frustrating than anything else. If you get cursed here, you have to go through a relatively difficult portion of the game with half of your HP, which of course is not fun. I hate that you can still continue to take curse buildup after you've been taken down. I think that's stupid. I do like leaving this area because, you know, you have to kill the guard and it's like a little bit of a jailbreak. That's kind of cool. But, yeah, this place doesn't have very many redeeming qualities. I'm just trying to stretch for things I like here. This fucking bell, this thing is just on the entire time. It's super loud. I understand it's the alarm because there's been a jailbreak and they're sending out these guys after us, but it's just so loud and annoying the entire time. It just makes me want to run through this even faster. That being said, our sprinting R1 deals some serious damage in here. Look at that. Another thing that sucks about this place is this is where you get one of the Firekeeper souls, and unfortunately, it's behind a locked door. So all of the running I just did down here, we're gonna have to do that again, and then some, just to get another Firekeeper soul. And because that Firekeeper soul is there, it's basically mandatory that you have to do this every single run, and I'm so sick of it. The key to get out of here is located in a chest at the top of the ladder, just above the room that the Estus, the Firekeeper soul is in. We can turn the alarm off, so at least it gets a little bit quieter in here. There's also, oh yes, sweet serenity. You can also just die, and you don't hear the alarm even though it's active for some reason. Then we run past our holding cell to this giant ladder that these other snakes climb up. But we have the key, so we can leave. And again, I will say, it was interesting trying to solve the puzzle of how to progress through this area the first couple of times I was in this area. Now it simply feels like I'm getting enough steps in for my day to say I got 10,000 steps so I can feel good about myself. We go to the left past the channeler. We turn these stairs one time. Follow the stairs up past the archer, which I'm going to need to heal because he just hit me in the abdomen. How dare you? To the left, drop down on this staircase. Hopefully dodge the spell. Spin this around one time. Follow these stairs down into this room, which is hidden behind a secret bookshelf. Sometimes if you go all the way to the bottom here, that archer who's shooting arrows at us from above just kind of walks off the edge and dies. Because that's good AI. That's exactly what an archer should do. If we pull this lever, it opens up a secret bookshelf. The bonfire is then located to the left. However, I don't grab it here because we need a key that I can never remember where it is. Perfect. The Archive Tower Giant Cell Key. We Homer Bone from here back into the prison cell that we were in before. Run down to the bottom, grab the Firekeeper soul, and do it all again. There is a nice little workaround with this room if you're struggling with it. These enemies cannot leave this area. So if you are kind of getting swarmed, which clearly we are not, all you have to do is bring them over to this door, and they can't leave. But I'm just gonna go get my thing and get out of here, okay? Luckily this time we just have to take the stairs down and we don't have to do that big maze again, which is nice. Now, from this bonfire, we are going to head back to the Firelink Shrine. I'm gonna wake our lady back up, if I can. Did I just decline it? Can it come back? Hey. By the way, she talks after you resurrect her. She doesn't do that at any other point in the game. I am gonna get my Estus Flask upgraded as much as I can. Looks like we have 4 right now. There is one more down in Blighttown that I never grabbed because I didn't feel like dealing with the toxin in the early game. And one more in the new Londo ruins that I didn't grab either. Anyway, now that we're here, this fight is all about surviving until the boss uses its curse stuff. And hopefully you don't get cursed in the process. One of the easiest ways of avoiding being cursed is to simply have 10 humanity on your person. Also, if you're ever trying to get some item drops in the game, this is a fantastic way to do it. But every humanity you have at the top left, up until 10, increases your curse resistance. There's also a curse ring in the New Londo ruins. There's also some armor that has curse resistance, but this should be totally fine for what we're trying to accomplish today. And the reason I got my Estus Flask upgraded prior to this is just because this boss is typically a tank and spank. You're going to be hit by abilities. Just DPS them down quickly. We want to make sure we can heal through as much of that punishment as humanly possible. Pull this lever back in the room behind the bookshelf and make your way into the Crystal Cave. Another area that's pretty cool your first time in here and then loses a lot of its luster the more you come in here. There's a couple reasons it's cool. Number one, you get to see your Twilight Butterfly friends again. Although they're not hostile this time, they're just kind of hanging out in here. There's also a path that you have to take. In the original version of the game, it was completely hidden, and you had to use prism stones to figure out where the safe path is. Now we have little bits of dust landing on this, as well as permanent messages left in the game that basically tell us where to go. So the first time you're in here, it can be pretty intimidating. Every time after that, you just walk where the glimmer is landing and splashing, and then you know it's safe. So, Seath the Scaleless. Intimidating boss in size. Also, he roars a lot. You can... Is that right? You can cut the tail off of this guy? I think I remember doing that. It's that back tentacle and no other ones. This boss is immortal, just like we encountered him before. The reason he is immortal is because this is intact. So what we want to do is wait for the big guy to walk pretty close. You can even wait for him to start an attack. Then, when we break this, he's actually going to be stunned for a pretty decent amount of time, which allows us to get into position inside of the pocket, and I'm just going to spam R2s in here until the boss dies. As I'm sure you can tell, not the most exciting strategy in the entire world. I am going to run out now that he's exploding. I still think that might hit me. Indeed it does. You can see the curse starting to build up now. We also lose HP periodically as we're standing in those crystals. However, the only time this boss is hard at all is if you are playing on like New Game Plus 8 and you can't just rush him down. If you get enough humanity in your system, the curse is completely inconsequential. If you equip the ring as well, the curse is basically meaningless. His damage basically does nothing. I had to heal one time on that fight. And keep in mind, I hurt myself if I stack up the bleed. So, yeah. I don't like this area. Next, we are going to head back down into the Catacombs. Do the exact same skip we did before. Oh god, that could have been bad. And now that we are back in Pinwheel's room, we're simply going to take the ladder in the back corner over here, which is pretty hard to see. And this is how we're going to enter the Tomb of the Giants. This zone is completely pitch black, aside from these little guiding prism stones on the ground. There are some pretty big enemies ahead of us too. Here's one of them now. And you know what's funny? I was playing this game recently with my friend Shaq, and he actually got really lucky and managed to grab... I don't know where I am. Okay, I do know where I am. He got really lucky and managed to grab the Necromancer lantern. And the lantern is a guaranteed drop in the middle of a pit in here, but he got it early off of the Necromancers. And that allows you to light your way. And you know what's funny? We were using that in co-op, and I was trying to guide him through this area. But when this place is illuminated, I actually have no idea where I'm going. In the dark, I know to follow this wall, it's going to bend to the right. We're barely going to dodge a dog there. We go through the fog and then run relatively straight until we fall off of a ledge. I know all of this, and I can basically do it with my eyes closed because we're doing it in the dark right now. However, when he lit this place up even a little bit, I was so completely lost. It was kind of hilarious. And that's how you speedrun the Duke's Archive, or excuse me, not the Duke's Archives, the Tomb of the Giants. Neat-o is one of the great lords, and during this fight, you have to deal with a pretty significant number of adds. One thing I really like about this fight is if you specialize in divine weaponry, so weapons that scale off faith, which are pretty uncommon. Not a lot of builds do that. You can actually Whoa, man, I can't get out of this corner. You can completely kill off these adds so they don't respawn, which I think is such a cool mechanic. Without a divine weapon, we kind of have to dance around these guys for the entirety of the fight. One of the best things we can do is actually just let Gravelord Neat-o kill all of these adds on his own. And the easiest way of doing that is to make sure they all die at relatively the same time, so that when Neat-o does some of his bigger AoE attacks like this one that he's about to do, the enemies are killed by it. Hopefully I'm far enough away, not quite. So he's basically just killed all of his adds for me, and I have a pretty big opening here. Neat-o also does a toxic attack through the ground like that can be a little difficult to dodge if you don't quite get the timing right. And again, I'm not trying to fight these adds here, so I'm just gonna kite around to the other side of the boss, and hopefully they get stuck and killed off soon. Although, pretty big cleaves from me here. I didn't see that he was charging the AoE there. There are two gigantic adds over in the back left corner here, and this is one of the few fights where you really need to worry about where you're positioning, because if you aggro those two giant adds over in the corner, things get even more complicated than they are already. This always feels like a super hectic fight to me. I'm also being hit by a ton of stuff that I don't normally get hit by. But again, I think that just reinforces how cool it is that you can totally change the dynamic of this fight by removing the adds entirely with a divine weapon. Please don't kill me. Thank you. Thank you for killing that ad. I really needed that, actually. 5 more Estus Flasks here. He's going for another toxin attack. We roll out of the way this time. I got to get some serious damage in here, but unfortunately, the adds are already back. Going for a cleave. I do take 2 down. He's channeling another AoE. I'm just going to run to this corner and hope for the best. I think I'm going to get hit. No, just out of range. And we have a huge opening because all of the adds are now currently dead. Dodge under this attack. Really hammer in the R1s here. Another AoE happening. We can easily run this way, and that's good because the adds should just be respawning, so he's taking care of those. Back in with some R2s, dodge under, and another R2. Beautiful. Kind of sloppy, but we got it done. And that means another great lord soul is in our possession. Gravelord Neat-o also has a covenant that you can join, and it gives a weapon that's actually pretty strong in the early game if you ever want to look into doing that early. Yet another way your path could change at the beginning of Dark Souls. And now for the final of the Lord's Souls. We go to the New Londo Ruins, the zone where you have to pretend that you're cursed in order to participate, or better yet, go get yourself cursed. Dude, the Life Hunt Scythe is still just continuing to shine around every corner. Such a good weapon, so much fun to use, especially when you know where all of the enemies are going to be. There's a pretty fun strat you can do for this part if you have enough poise, because technically all of the ghosts are using daggers to attack. So I equipped the entirety of the Dark Iron Tarkus set, and I'm just gonna run through this whole area. This aggro's a bunch of ghosts, and then you can bring them over to this area where they slowly trickle in. It's pretty intimidating the first time you do it, but just remember, they can't stop you from swinging, so just keep swinging. Easy peasy, dude, easy peasy. I remember getting through this area to talk to the red guy used to be really, really difficult for me. So I would bring in a bow and just cheese him from the walkway. But ever since I figured out that poise thing, it's not that big of a deal at all. Oh, I just thought this guy was a little weird. Oh. He's like, oh, you know Guinevere? Okay, I'll give you this thing that I'm not supposed to give anyone, ever. Now we travel up the back side of the building rather than going to the kill pit that we brought all the ghosts to before, and then ruin all of the precautions that were set up by the previous people that were here. My first time through the New Londo ruins, especially after you lower the water, is so intimidating. Super duper strong enemies around every single corner, and at times this area can feel like an absolute maze. However, once you know where you're going, that's the boss door. So just drop down, and now you're at the boss. That blew my mind the first time I realized that. Now, of course, before we fight the four kings, we do need to equip the Covenant of Artorias. Otherwise, you're going to die the second your feet hit the ground. I always really like this fight because it's like a DPS check. If you fight 3 kings, you know you're doing something right. If you fight 4, it's like, okay, whatever. But I've seen games where you just have kings going around you in every direction because they're based off of timers when they spawn, which can be pretty damn scary. I also don't think these guys are susceptible to bleed, and I don't really dodge any of their melee stuff. I simply run up in their business and then I don't leave. The way their damage is calculated is if you get hit by the blade of their weapon, you take a lot of damage. But if you stand really close to them, what happens is they're actually hitting you with the hilt of their blade, which does significantly less damage. So even on builds that use like bows and spells, the safest place to be is directly in melee range to make this fight easier. Our DPS is okay. I forgot to equip my anti-bleed set again, so we are dealing a lot of damage to ourselves, but I'm keeping pace with the kings. Another small tip for this fight is as the boss is fading away, you can actually still continue to deal damage to the boss. I'm not just spinning in circles here, I'm also spinning the camera, trying to find this boss as soon as he spawns. There they are. I'm pretty far ahead of the timer. That feels pretty good. We're not even using like power infusion or anything to really scale up our damage even higher. We just ran right by that spell, but it is probably gonna loop back around. Here it comes. I need to make sure that doesn't hit me right when my bleed happens. He's gonna hit me, but I should be able to heal in between swings. Look at that perfect orbiting spell right there. It's beautiful. You love to see it. Unfortunately, I am not going to get the 3 kings fight today. We're going to fight the 4 instead. But still, not bad at all. I saw a run where, like a soul level 1 run, where a guy was doing this, and it was also like a no-hit run at the same time, and he just had kings around him in every direction, dipping, diving, throwing spells, slashing at him. I can't imagine that. I really can't imagine that at all. Also, the damage scaling on higher new game difficulties gets a little tight, so you can't really cheese the boss just by having really good DPS on harder difficulties. Still, pretty memorable fight. I like it a lot. And now we could start the DLC. Well, now admittedly, I could have cleaned up this part of the route quite a lot, especially because we came over here to fight Sif already. But in order to start the DLC, teleport to Andre's house, make your way over to Havel's house, and then get a little sidetracked before you open the door. See that bit of water down there? That's where we're heading. This area is protected by 4 blue golems, as well as a gigantic hydra in the middle of the lake. I remember my fucking jaw dropping when I saw this guy for the first time. I was so intimidated and so afraid. And really, this entire area was pretty intimidating. Nowadays, I just let the blue golems follow me in because they'll take damage from the boss and just be killed. The safe place to stand is right on top of this armor. If you stand there with your shield up, the boss will not hit you and will stop shooting ranged attacks. Just stand here with your shield up. And then take a swing at any of the heads as they come by. I actually prefer to kill this boss later in the game just because it's a little bit easier to actually get all of these heads down. If you have a ranged attack, it's never really that big of a deal, but I have to run to each individual head here, kind of hoping for the best. You can kill the Hydra before all of the heads are dead, and that's ideal. Because at least with this strategy, I'll show you, there's one neck that kind of shoots across the lake. And the edge of the walkable water is pretty close to me. It's that one over there is such a pain in the ass to kill. So hopefully I kill the boss before it comes down to that. That's one more down. 2 to go. Uh-oh. Hold on, I'll run it. Did I get you? Nice. You know, even after playing this game for so long, when a plan comes together like that, it feels really good. Feels really good. I walked around using the edge of the water as my guide, made it to a cave in the back, and now I have to quit the game. You could also alternatively go to a bonfire, but that is a lot more running than I want to do. After we reset the game, there's going to be a golem at the end. Be very mindful not to swing too much. Oh, because there's a friendly NPC inside of this golem that we don't want to kill. As you may have guessed, this guy doesn't really take any bleed damage either, but he only has about 1,000 HP. We exhaust all of her dialogue and she goes away. Then we go away. Back in the Duke's archives, our main target is now a blue golem at the top of the very first lift. We ran right by this guy before because we didn't need him then. Be very mindful that everyone in here hits pretty hard, even if you have pretty decent gear. So it's in your best interest to clear them out. There's also one of the trident guys in the next room that will buff the damage of everyone around him, and it can scale up pretty fast. So there's no shame in just taking your time here so you don't have to do this fucking run again. Now that it's just me and him, I mean, maybe I could have rushed this down a little bit. Maybe I was being a little too careful. He's gonna drop the broken pendant, and that's our sign to leave again. I have a really high opinion of the DLC. I think it's really, really fun. I like all of the bosses in it. Spoiler alert. I also like the lore implications and seeing zones in a new way because it's kind of time travel-y, kind of timey-wimey DLC. I hate this run though. I check out just as hard during this run as I do during the Duke's archives. I just cannot wait for it to be over. That's still so sick though. That's so cool. And this DLC starts off on a pretty aggressive note. The Sanctuary Guardian may not be the most difficult boss in the world, but he is a hyper aggressive one, and he has more moves than most other bosses in the game. We also see a return of several mechanics that I like. For instance, you can chop off his tail to get a specific weapon. He also goes back and forth in between melee and ranged stances based off what the player is doing. So he just went for the melee. That was my opening there, and I didn't take it. And you could see just how fast the boss reacts to move back to safety. Now, because I hit him in the face a couple times, he reverts back to doing air attacks. If I try to drink while he's in the air, he starts nailing me with abilities. No, let me drink, I'll be okay. I really should have got the rest of my Estus at some point. This wind attack is simply to knock the player off guard, but I'm gonna go for 2 R2s into his side for a pretty big portion of the boss's health. Ooh, that one hit me. And because I was staggered by that attack, that same opening that we took before, I wasn't able to take now. It's a boss that really punishes you for playing badly, but gives you all of the openings that you need to defeat him. The weapon from the tail, by the way, is a whip. Whips aren't very popular in this game, so maybe you don't want it. But it does limit some of his moveset too. He does the same thing that the Gaping Dragon did, where if I attack from the back, he will whip that tail around of his and hit me while I'm behind him. As we leave the first bonfire area, this bridge may look familiar to you. It's because this is the same bridge that we took in the forest to fight Sif, the giant wolf with the sword. And the sword that Sif was wielding was an enlarged version of Artorias' sword. Hey, bud! Even this moment here where you see the Black Dragon Kalameet for the first time is kind of a callback to that original portion of the game where we're running through the Undead Burg and the dragon flies in front of us. I found this armor here in the forest. I'm sure no one will miss it. It also has really good bleed resistance, so it's kind of perfect for us. And it's a little more lightweight than our previous gear. We might actually be able to swap over to the wood grain rings. Oh, yes! All right, look at this intro, dude. It's amazing. I still smile every time. So this is Artorias, the knight we've at the same time heard nothing about while playing through the game, but know so much about. He is an extremely aggressive knight. He swings around a sword in his right hand. Don't you know he's left-handed though, so you're not even fighting Artorias at his full strength. The main thing to look out for on this fight is him jumping into the air on top of your character. These big, over-exaggerated head slams that he can chain to... All right. Thank you. That he can chain together, charges forward, spins off to the side, but more importantly than all of this, the boss is capable of powering up, and it's very important that you interrupt this power-up. The hardest attempts I've ever had on Artorias was with weapons that simply did not do enough damage to his poise to stagger him out of charging up. Once you get him to, honestly, I thought he would do it already. It's like under 75% HP. He usually screams, does some flips to get away from you, and then begins to channel. And this is imperative that you interrupt him. Because if you don't, you're going to be fighting a Super Saiyan version of the fight that we've been already fighting. And let me tell you from experience, that is not fun. Oh, is he doing it again? Oh, I got greedy. Let me heal. I got him here. R2. Beautiful. The lore in this game is usually like you have to read item descriptions to really understand what's going on. And I think Artorias is a little guilty of that throughout most of the normal game. But there's a really nice touch here. After you reset at the next bonfire, you can then go back into his arena. And then basically it's the girl who loved him simply wants to pay respects. Well, maybe I have to reset the game. She simply wants to pay respects and asks for his soul back so she can lay it to rest.
Is that not the soul of the man who fell on this spot?
So you should give it to her.
Thank you.
It is a lot of souls, but it's the right thing to do. We did a playthrough that ended using those daggers where we spun around a lot with them, and that was super duper fun. If you ever want some good weapons to use. Unfortunately, you have to wait until, you know, almost done with the game to get them. Okay, I just remembered we can't open Goff's door yet. We need to go get the key. This is for another optional boss. This is to fight the dragon that flew in front of us earlier. It's so funny. I spend so much more time running in this game than I do fighting things in this game. And I mean, it's kind of my own fault, and I understand that. I take responsibility for that. It's just kind of funny. All right, after we get by this sorcerer... Yeah, it was funny how you missed. I think so, too. We're going to be heading into what I would say is the main building of this area. Tons of enemies around every single corner. But luckily for us, we know exactly what we're after. As we get to the base of the stairs here, we're going to turn right into this area where we can see light coming from. This leads us up a large set of stairs that continues to lead us upstairs. After we get outside here, we're going to then look to our left and roll into this little secret area. Inside of this mimic, oh, smooth. Inside of this mimic is the key that we need to do the optional boss. Now, in order to start this, you have to do a lot of running. Out of the Artorias arena, down to the left, past this lantern. There are some dogs around a small little creek. These dogs kind of suck. They anticipate attacks quite a lot and juke out of the way, so come here at your own risk. As you pass through that area, you're going to want to hold to the left side. There's a small ladder peeking out, and our dragon friend zooming by. Also, free souls when this dog jumps off. If the dog jumps off. The trick to actually being able to kill this boss, I imagine this was pretty cool when the game came out and you were like still uncovering the mysteries of it. But the trick is to run into the middle of the arena. You need to witness the boss laying waste to everything around you, which we are starting to see right now. And then we homeward bone. Okay, now that we have the key and we triggered that area, we should be able to come up here, and our little blind archer friend up here should do us a solid. Now things may be a little more even. The boss still does retain some ability to fly, but nowhere near as much as we previously witnessed because of that injury to its wing. Kalameet is an extremely aggressive combatant that goes back and forth between aerial maneuvers like this, dashes towards the player, and then just huge swipes in an area. And he can be very difficult to keep up with. He can fill the screen with fire in a mere moment's notice, and the safest place to attack this big guy is actually back at his hind feet. We're gonna wait for this tantrum to end, get swiped on the side, and most importantly, we need to make sure that we're watching out for that suck-in attack that you just saw there. If that does connect, what's gonna happen is you're gonna be lifted into the air and then suffer a debuff that doubles the damage that you take for the entirety of the fight. All right, I gotta get in here and do some fucking damage, Kalameet. You're making me look bad. This flame attack that he does, if you simply roll away from him, he will not hit fire at his starting location where he began the dash at. Whenever he flies straight up, this is always a flame attack straight down, and as long as you react immediately, you are able to get to a safe location. This fire attack is a godsend. This is where you're able to deal the most damage if your weapon isn't weird and arc weird like mine does. Don't worry, we'll get through it. I'm having to make a lot of adjustments just based on the hitbox of my weapon here. Like, my first 10 attacks did not connect. Is this the suck up or the fire? It's the fire, so I'm gonna go wide here. We should be able to get a double swing off. Beautiful! You can cut the tail off of this boss as well, although, you know, it's pretty hard. It's pretty challenging to do. Ooh, this one's gonna be a problem. I need to stay close to him because he actually hit the wall there instead of flying back. Rolling away from him there wasn't really an option to keep myself safe. Back to another flame attack. We're just going to sneak in here to the side for a double R2. And I'm just trying to take the damage where I can get it, because he doesn't give you too many opportunities. If you are going to cut the tail, I would recommend waiting for those attacks where he sits up. Ooh, this is good. This is good for us. We can get in here and get some headshots in. Beautiful, 3 swings. I would wait for this attack if you're trying to cut the tail off, and unfortunately you just have to have super good positioning and get behind him literally right away, otherwise you might be in some trouble. That tail swipe does hit me. I'm gonna need to heal immediately. You gonna spit some fire? Oh, the tail swipe got me again. All right, Kalameet, go easy on me, bud. Oh, fuck me. Don't do that. Oh my God, I was just out of range. All right, we got to end this. I only have 11 Estus left. I'm actually using so much more than I thought. But again, it's like the Gaping Dragon, where if you cut off that tail, all of a sudden, that main attack that he was hitting me with, which was the tailspin, is basically rendered useless. Let's be... Oh, fuck! Here we go. No, take it. There we go. It's like riding a bike. You just gotta fall off first and scare yourself into riding better. Back into the main room. This time we're not going up that side path for the key. We're simply going to, well, we could go up there to make our exit a little bit easier. There's a lot of dudes in here. They can cramp that corner really hard. So instead of walking out there, we'll go back towards the key. Walk to the end of this hallway? Yes. And then we could just step off this roof and we're outside. Right in front of an enemy that wants to kill me. I'm so afraid of this dude right here. I never fight this guy. I don't know what to think of him. I like to think that him and me have some mutual respect, you know what I mean? Ah! You know, we don't bother each other. I don't bother him. He doesn't bother me. I'm just trying to get in this room behind him. And then pray that he doesn't... Oh, please, no. Hit the button. Hit the button. Go. Ah! Hey, we almost made it. Now that we are in the dungeons, I'm gonna get human form. The zone itself is pretty damn scary because you're in not quite pitch black like the Tomb of the Giants, but you do see the red eyes of your enemies looming in the distance at all times. There is a really, really cool thing you can do in the DLC, which is finding Sif. And if you do this before you fight him, you know, to gain the Crest of Artorias, the ring you need to fight the Four Kings, then you actually get a different cutscene. I'm not going to spoil what's different in the cutscene, but I am going to show you how to get Sif, because I think everyone should at least experience that one time. It's these small little attentions to detail that make the Dark Souls world feel alive, I feel like. So, this cat is the one from the Forest Covenant. She is leading you to a poor puppy who's been surrounded by the embodiment of humanities. If these things touch you, they will do damage. They are a pretty good humanity farm if you need it, though, although it could be a little difficult to gauge distance on these bigger guys. Once you clear the room, Sif is gonna howl, and that basically means that you're best bros. That's how it works. More importantly, once we rescue him, we'll be able to use Sif as a companion in the final battle of the DLC. Hey, bud, how you feeling? Perfect. Going back the way I came, taking this ramp down to the left, and this will circle back to the main path that you take to get to Manus. So this really isn't even that far out of your way. When you hit the caster at the top, you know you're in the right spot. Hey, bud. And then we just take this down to the bottom. So some cool things here. You can actually see Manus, the final boss, down at the bottom of the pit here before you enter the boss fight. And if you are using an archer build, you can actually deal damage to him from there, and that damage sticks when you enter the boss fight. I'm going to skip the cutscene just because I feel like I'm going to have a few attempts in here. I kind of suck at this fight. But there is literally no reason not to summon in Sif. It does not give Manus more HP like most other summons do, and the reason for that is the summon is actually inside of the boss arena. So the boss's health is already calculated once you get in here. We're not increasing it by adding a companion, he's just helping us kill the boss. Sometimes that can be very greatly needed. This tantrum is no joke, especially with the amount of vitality that I have, which I think is only 25. We're gonna have to avoid that. He raises his hand and does a really big stomp with it. He also does this move where if you're standing behind him, he can reach around with that left arm of his and hit you even back there. So you're never really safe from his reach. Even though his tail looks like it might be able to be chopped off, to my knowledge, it cannot. Keep rolling here. Once he hits... Oh, hold on. Can you fight the dog for a second? Once he hits, I believe, 50 HP, he goes into phase 2, where he starts to cast some dark sorceries at the player as well. As if dodging all of this wasn't hard enough. As you can see, there's a common trend in this DLC where they really took off the training wheels. Dark Souls 1 was definitely a hard game in its own merit, but the DLC just is so much more aggressive. Okay, when this starts, we literally just need to run. He has another version where he will shotgun projectiles into your face. That's pretty scary too. You solve that by running. There is an item that you can loot inside the Elysial Township, which allows you to repel some of these projectiles back at Manus. I'm not sure if they deal damage or not, but you can at least not take damage from them. However, I typically find that I have a better time just rolling. Rather than trying to make sense of my items in the middle of a tough fight like this, I think it's better just to worry about my own movement and dodging this stuff. We have another rain of abilities down on the ground. Oh, there's also another one where he spawns projectiles on the outside of the room. He just really likes sending this one at me for some reason. Our boy Sif is in there doing damage, getting the attention of a boss. It looks like the tantrum is happening now. He can change targets mid-tantrum, which is exactly what he did. I immunity framed that and took very, very little damage. I'm not too sure what actually happened there. A couple R2s into his side while he was distracted. Another tantrum as the boss goes crazy. Hey, I still feel really good whenever I one-shot Manus, dude. I still think that's an accomplishment. Even after all this time, that feels excellent. You'll find our old friend that we freed from the golden golem on the ground. She gives you 10 humanity. And that is the Dark Souls DLC, which means there's only one boss remaining. Back to the Firelink Shrine and down into the pit. You sorry fool. You could never be the chosen one. We put all of the souls that we collected into the soul bucket, which opens up the final door and allows us to traverse onward. I always thought this area was really stunning. Not quite as much as Anor Londo, but drastically different from everything else we have viewed in the game so far. Inside of this area, you will only find Gwyn's loyal knights still protecting him even after all of this time. What I think is really cool about this is the Black Knight weapons, the Dark Knight weapons, I never remember what the enemy's actually called, are actually extremely rare during a normal playthrough because there are only so many encounters where you can find these guys while you're traversing through just the normal game. So the fact that they have so many here means they're actually setting you up to use some cool new weapons in New Game Plus if you decide to do it. For instance, this Black Knight Greatsword, I believe, is only dropped from one other enemy in the game. And once you kill that enemy one time, they simply do not come back. And if you did get a new weapon and you like the armor, behind this pole, you will find the entire set that these guys are wearing. Oh! It still feels incredible when I do that. That's so fucking good, dude. Come on. I have equipped the Hornet Ring. This is an item that is behind the tombstone in the Sif fight. we are going to use that to boost our critical damage. Critical damage is backstabs and riposts. The main strategy for Gwyn is to simply bait his attacks. When he goes to swing, you parry him. There are rules in the game on who you can... I've never been able to get that. There are rules in the game on sizes of enemies that you can and cannot parry. Gwyn just happens to be totally okay. The final boss of the game usually... Oh, man, that sucks. Usually comes down to just landing your parries. Been a while since I've been in here, to be honest. I did a co-op playthrough with a good friend of mine named Ruakan. I've alluded to him a few times during my commentary of this run. But we were doing a new game plus 8 dragon form only, which means your character can't wear any gear. And we were trying, well, any armor. And we were trying to beat the game in co-op, and it was going really, really well. I'm usually really good at the Gwyn fight. Parries are something that I feel really, really good about, at least in Dark Souls 1. As you get into the other games, I lose a lot of confidence in my parry times, but at least in this game, I feel pretty confident. So walking into Gwyn, I was like, this'll be fine. I'm sure it's nothing to worry about. Remember, each time you increase the difficulty of the game, the bosses get more health and deal more damage, and your scaling kind of stops at a certain point. We have soft caps on all of our stats at 40, so I was pretty weak. I didn't have any armor on, and we were trying to do the hardest version of Gwyn that there was. And I want to say it took me like an hour and 45 minutes of attempts. It was like so fucking many attempts on this boss. And Rui just sat here patiently. He was like, you can do it, dude. You can do it. And he was right. I mean, eventually we got it down. I just had to do literally everything perfect. And I truthfully think about that every single time I get here. So let's go out on a good note, shall we? Oh, it's fast. I also hit R1 on accident. There it is. Okay. One parry for 1,111 damage. That's very satisfying. Dodge the grapple, drink. Man, it keeps queuing up my R1 when I hit it on accident. That's gonna get me killed. Move up. I hope he goes for another parry. Oh, for another grapple, actually. 1,111 damage. As we top off our health again. There it is! One more! I've done this fight in a bow-only challenge, and it was actually extremely easy. And he's catching me with that Q a lot. Like, if you are just constantly moving away from the boss, it's like the developers never expected that to happen. If you ever need to drink, the best way to do it is to put one of these pillars in between you and the boss. However, I got it right here. No, I don't. Man, the wind up on the R1 on this weapon is really, really punishing me. What's happening is I'm trying to parry the initial swing, so I'm hitting the parry button and then immediately following up with the R1. But unfortunately, the parry isn't connecting, so it just goes into the next swing, which is a really long animation. All right, just gotta be patient. Land the parry first and then riposte. We played through Demon Souls on the channel recently, and I did a bow-only build, and the last boss was staggerable just by locking onto him and shooting him with arrows. And I thought that was just so ridiculous. And some people were like, well, yeah, but Gwyn was parryable. So, dude, the amount of coordination it takes to land a parry and the amount of variations in attacks that Gwyn has far out surpasses that fight in Demon Souls. That dude literally just stood there and let me kill him. Every time he tried to move forward, he was stunned. All right, here we go. I'm gonna land the parry. One day, dude. One day, dude. Please don't kill me. Please let me heal, Mr. Gwyn. Please let me heal, Mr. Gwyn. All right, now the fight can be... Well, I thought it could begin. Sit down, motherfucker. You gonna keep doing that fast swing on me? That's right, a nice slow swing. That's what I need. All right, don't move your feet. I'm gonna top off. Oh, yeah, another slow one. I can take that. Come on, big guy. One more. Oh, thank you. Thank you. And that is the final boss of Dark Souls 1. Gwyn, the Lord of Cinders. So I've been working on this video for like a week now. Just playing when I can and then editing everything together as best as I can in between each little segment of the run. And it turns out that as I'm saying these words, and hopefully on the same day that this video is uploaded, although it might be a little late, it's the 10-year anniversary for Dark Souls, which is an awesome coincidence. I was not planning that at all. This is hands down one of my favorite games ever made. And if you made it to the end, I would love to know which of the endings is your favorite. Do you link the flame or do you abandon it? And also, if you did make it to the end, make sure you hit the thumbs up button. And your comment telling me about the ending, make sure you say, Happy Anniversary, Dark Souls! Because this game is phenomenal. I'm not picking an ending. We're going to end it right here. Thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate you more than you know. And we'll be back again soon. Hey, I started my game up again. I wanted to do two things, because this video wasn't long enough. I wanted to remind everybody that if you go back to the Sanctuary Guardian at the beginning of the DLC, after you clear the DLC, you can actually fight two of that boss at the same time. I meant to do it, but I forgot, and I'm not going to go back now. But every time I show that off on stream, so many people don't know that that's possible. So I thought I would mention it here for you guys loyal enough to make it to the end of the video. Secondly, I've never homeward bound in here. What happens? Huh. Goodbye, everybody.